Hello, everyone. Welcome back to NECC Esports. It is week 7 here for Overwatch. I'm Dan. I'm here with Man of Class, and we've got a banger of a game. We've got Midway University and Huntington Esports, two titans of the lower trials, battling it out for the last couple rounds of the regular season.
Yeah, it's time. We're getting closer and closer to those playoffs. Only a couple more weeks to go after this. And if you want to score some points, this is the time to do it. Of course, these teams are, like you said, getting closer and closer to the end here. And when we look at this particular division, Navigators Yellow, and between these two teams, both of them, have something to play for. Huntington is currently pretty much undefeated. They're doing pretty awesome. And they don't really have to worry about making playoffs. They're going to be fine. When it comes to Midway, they are currently looking good. They are on 6th place. They're 2-3 record, so they do have some games lost. But if they keep up this performance, they will probably end in like the middle of the pack, maybe a little towards the bottom. But they're not in danger of being relegated just yet, or at least relegated, not making to playoffs. So looking forward to that to this game. There is a pretty big difference between where these teams are in the standings. But when you get to the lower end of the SRs, like these divisions, and in general, because the divisions are split up by this sort of SR or like average SR skill level grouping, you can always expect or sometimes even count on these like underdog stories, like these comeback things. The standings don't always mean everything. And sometimes it even happens that teams haven't actually played, or when they played, they had like different subs or something like that. So it's never really predictable, everything that happened. So while on paper, I think both of us kind of expect Huntington to do pretty well here, Midway could come out and surprise us.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. And it looks like, like you said, both these teams got something to play for, and I think both these teams are coming in hungry. But let's see who we got in line at the cafeteria here. Let's check in over at Midway University first. We've got Jaeger, Tireman, Beppo, Denazi, Myth Games, and Midway Eagle.
Yeah, exactly. Coming in here, again, we always look a little bit at like the experience range in terms of like how far are they in their education. Quite a mixed lineup here in terms of where they are. Also in terms of what type of education they're following. Midway coming in with a very diversified roster when it comes to that, and you like to see it. Once again, we always mention it. Gaming kind of bringing people together, and especially when you think about if anyone plays their games at home, not everyone is Grandmaster, not everyone is at that top 500 level. So just people playing with their friends, they can somehow end up on a community on a college team together like this, like Midway, and just play some esports and create something great here. So very much looking forward to seeing what they're going to bring out. On the other side, of course, on the screen, on the roster, we do have Huntington coming in as the favorites. It's going to be Prozac, T-Brain, Trashboat, Ginger, Doxic, and X-Michael. This is the film production squad. I think these are the guys that after their matches, they're going back into their replays. They're making the awesome montages. They're making it happen. As their own class projects, they make montages of each other's gameplay so they can like hype each other up. I think they were almost sitting there like when they make a play, it's like that's going in the replays. We're gonna find that one, media log it, get in there, make sure it happens. Having worked on like the content of Contenders last year, I can definitely tell you that everything you do during the broadcast, during the games itself, pays off in the long run. And these guys will definitely know that, both in terms of gameplay, but potentially also in terms of their cinematic prowess afterwards.
You're not wrong. I look forward to the biography of it all, the documentary. We also got to keep an eye out for Prozac there, because Prozac is going to be kind of a leader for this team. So Huntington got their senior, they've got their leader and their captain in the way, and they're looking to see it. But let's see where we're going to go on this magical journey and these last rounds. First, we are heading over to Busan, followed over by Eichenwald and Rialto. If we need to, we will see over at Numbani, Oasis, and we'll head down to Havana if we are blessed to make it that far.
If we are blessed to make it that far. I already hope that we're blessed enough to make it to Numbani again. I mean, we keep talking about this, just a map that's dear to our hearts for both of us. It's just there's a lot that's possible there. I do not necessarily expect it in this game, but potentially in one of the next series of the night. As we start out here on Busan between these teams, we are going to see who's going to come out on top, of course. Midway versus Huntington. Midway starting in the blue, Huntington in the red. We load into the first map of Busan.
it is going to be mecha base, and there's a lot you can do here because there's a lot of high grounds you can cover, a lot of, a couple very good choke points, especially at this level. You see a lot of defending at these 2 choke points. You'll see kind of keeping those doors slammed and someone usually sneaking in the other side. So I think we might see that here.
Yeah, and looking at the at the rosters further, you can also see like do they have like sort of set roles that they play, maybe set heroes. In this case, there's a lot of flex coming out of Midway, not really like a certainty of who's going to play what. The only one we really kind of know about what they're going to play. Those players aren't on the roster today; they're not like actively starting. So we're going to get a lot of flex, and the only one that would be a no, we just have no one. Everyone is Midway Eagle. I think is the only one that we kind of know. They're always going to be on the support.
Prozac going to go in and slam quickly, take out that Cassidy, and find a second to bring this up. And we said to keep an eye on Prozac, but we are literally going to have to keep an eye. Still looking for more and hungry, but the Rhine T-Brain comes through and picks up the rest of that. And before the point is even open, there goes the Mercy just to clean that up, and it will go the way of Huntington Esports.
Talk about setting a tone. It's the clean team wipe. The only thing that didn't get them the gong was that it took too long. That's it's unfortunate for Midway to get kind of destroyed that hard that early. They do have the right composition to deal with this. It's not like they're lacking in that department, but it's all about the execution. And if the Doomfist keeps punching like that, it's hard to keep your Rhine alive.
Yeah, but speaking of that, the Rhine has fallen after committing that shatter, and unfortunately will not see any value from that. So there's an opening for Midway, trying to find that Doomfist and get a little pick as Midway Eagle going to go ahead and try to lead and try to keep the rest of the team up. Pulse Bomb goes out, doesn't find anything, but the picks do start to come the way of Huntington Esports, and Ginger is getting some value and being a nuisance in the backline, but the real story is Trash Boat floating their way down. The Meteor Strike will come in, still hungry for more. Prozac is absolutely putting on a clinic with this Doomfist. Will clean up the Cassidy just to keep it rolling with 41%.
It's a shame we can't be in the comms right now, because I'm sure that Huntington are all looking for like those specific cooldowns. Has the Immortality Field been used? Has the Flashbang been used? Has the Shield Bash been used? Now there's even going to be a hook for Tire Man as well, so even more to look out for. But if they keep track of those cooldowns, they can always kind of indicate for Prozac, this is the time to go in. They're too distracted, they've used their utility, this is when you're going to have free reign.
Well, speaking of utility, there is again Denazi going down a little bit early, again constantly from that side of Prozac, who is leading the charge there all the time. Huntington Esports still coming up big. Immortality Field will go, looking for this Graviton Surge. Probably doesn't even need it because the rest of the team has gone. He was in Doxic, just gonna fly around, make sure, and just put some band-aids on the problems there. They will get the flip back, and the 12% was gained for Midway. I guess that's something.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's a Mercy voice line, right? Do you need a bandage for that? Or is it the Ana one?
Yeah. I think it might have been the Mercy one. I'm not sure myself.
Yeah. Well, call her back in a couple days, see if it still hurts.
Yeah.
But for now, they have so many ultimates. Like, they haven't had really to use anything. Prozac again the
back,
and
that's
just a future shatter.
Oh, 3. The fight is already over. Can anybody make it time?
I don't think so. I mean, they're gonna get Tire Man, and it takes too long to respawn. Like, every percent on that board takes 1.2 seconds to do. A respawn takes 10. Then you need to walk. So there's no way they make it back. That is 1-0 here for Huntington. Deservedly so. Yeah, not really surprised about that. Those only 12% kind of came from the fact that they were ignoring a few people on the point while they were finishing off the rest. Going to the next point here, I mean, again, Doomfist is very playable here. It's a bit more open, not as much high ground to work with, and not as much like smaller doorways. Yeah. Plenty of walls still, but it could be trickier to make work. We'll see if Prozac sticks on it. When it comes to the rest of the squad, I think that Denazi being on the May might be the one thing that I'm a little bit unsure about, but the rest is perfectly viable here.
They're going to try to play for more isolation and more picks, and it's been hard because they haven't necessarily even gotten many picks in general, so maybe that can come out. They are going to pick up that double shield, though, so they're going to try and play back a little bit, I think. Maybe just try to wait for a little bit of a moment, and meanwhile, Huntington Esports is full steam ahead. They're going to bring out the Sim and just vie for that position first.
Looking here for Huntington
Midway.
to...
Early already.
Yeah.
Oh goodness, Huntington Esports is already set up, and I mean that push is done. They're just going to get the point here. It'll unlock in a few seconds, but there's the rest of it. Prozac goes in again, finds it with one piece of utility, and Dizik finally gets punished, though. There's enough utility in the way to get there and get it out. The trades will come back, though, and Trash Boat again, high charge is going in with that. They will res that back up, and again, they had control before the point even unlocked, but now it's just the cleanup, and Huntington Esports looking dominant here.
The only reason Prozac kind of died there is because all of a sudden mid-area is like, oh, there's a Mei. I'm not going to punch a Mei because as soon as I punch her, she just goes into Ice Block and I don't get anything. So I tried to switch targets, didn't quite work out, and then you get disabled in the long run. But yeah, I mean, most of the time, Prozac at least getting one elimination, usually more than one. So looking to see what else they can do. Huntington going at it.
They will throw that wall up there, not find anybody. The Reinhardt does get away. T-Brain is punished eventually, and Jaeger will fall in response. But again, Prozac goes in and finds some value on this Doomfist. They will commit this Photon Barrier, trying to keep themselves up and keep the point rolling. But Prozac, again, just showing up in the field constantly. Bappo will take a trip with the Reinhardt, but I think the damage is already done here. Huntington Esports continues to hold.
It's kind of over before it already started. It's such a hard thing to do here for Midway. They have to try and find openings, and they haven't even gotten an ultimate online yet. Points at 50%. They're close to the high noon. And this is why I was like worried about the Mei, because you can slow things down if she can get on top of them finally. And the wall only really works if you're fighting in a place where they don't have a way around the wall, or you have to be like really precise with your timing, which they're just not. So this would be a location in which it can work. They have to be ready for this.
No, no, they are not ready. The Shatter will catch one, but the rest of it will come down as the Doomfist continues to just have free reign, and Prozac wins the fight once again. But, you know, there's still time for one more fight here. So Midway has one chance. They've got two ultimates. That make that 3 on the board. They can do this. There's a chance here.
Yeah, for sure. Looking at 87% and counting. They can barely make it back. 86 is usually the cutoff, but they do look to make it maybe a little bit quicker. On the way there, though, Jaeger already out, and that is a tough loss because it's a lot of your DPS and one of your ultimates that was online. Prozac once again gets another. Just going to finish this one out, and unfortunately for Midway, this is just not their map.
No, they are gonna commit the Blizzard and try to get the rest of this down, but the damage is done. There's no one really home to make it. The rest of that Remain will continue to fight, and no, the Cassidy doesn't make it. No, but Huntington Esports will take round 1 with a pretty dominant statement there.
Huntington, I mean, we came into this kind of expecting it, right? Like, I don't think we have to really beat around the bush in terms of that we're just kind of expecting this not to necessarily be a close game. You always hope for that surprise, but it doesn't look like, at least on Control, there was even a remote chance they were going to make it. You can see it right there. The Immortality Field even almost came out. I think it came out a little bit early, maybe. And then it just destroyed it and went in straight after. So unfortunate, again, for Midway. But there are more maps. There are more chances. Some teams just don't know or don't really want to play Control that often.
Yeah.
And it's just unfortunate that it's even in the pool in the first place. But we're gonna have more maps. We're gonna have more time. Eichenwald next.
Yeah, we'll go to Eichenwald. I mean, look, I like to think in some ways Control is kind of similar to 2CP. There's some people that really just don't like to play it, and there are some people that aren't good at it. But you know, the good news, at least of one of those two things, is we don't have to ever see 2CP again. So at least there's that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's what you're talking about, right? We're getting close to the Overwatch 2 beta. Got to announce today that the entire Path to Pro is also going to be in Overwatch 2. So, yeah, looking like 2CP is really seeing its last days. There's a couple more tournaments maybe coming up before then that in the community that might have some 2CP in it. But for now, we can just enjoy, at least at NECC, just the other three game modes. And the next one is going to be hybrid, like you said, Eichenwald. And if you look at like what type of heroes can be played on all these type of maps, Doomfist might still work on Eichenwald. But a big deal about Eichenwald is that it's also a pretty good map for things like Pharah, maybe even a Hanzo coming out, maybe maybe more of these ranged units, and a Cassidy might find some more value. The Mei might find some more value on especially point A and point C. So the changes of composition, the changes that Midway can potentially address, are very helpful to go into an Eichenwald. Teams will be swapping sides, so that means we're going to have Midway on the attack first, and Huntington going to defend first. And as we load into the map, we're going to be able to see what they come out with.
Yeah, but let's theory craft for a minute here, class.
Sure.
So if you are Midway, and you know that this Doomfist has been kind of running you, and you've had a couple answers. You have a Brig, you have a Cassidy. What else do you need to do? Because you know, you've made a couple changes. What is your answer, and what would you suggest to Midway to answer this Doomfist that's been harassing you?
I mean, they kind of already did what they needed to do in terms of hero picks. Like, it's at that point, it kind of becomes a way of the individual players needing to save their cooldowns to stop the Doomfist. Because as soon as he comes in, if he doesn't do his Rocket Punch, he can't one-shot anything. So he needs the Rocket Punch to come in before being disabled. Otherwise, that first kill will never come through. So a Doomfist always needs to be disabled before he can start like comboing, getting his combos off, building up that shield that he usually builds up by hitting the abilities. So that is what they need to do. They need to figure out a way to have the right players in the right position to save their cooldowns, and then as soon as the Doomfist comes in, deal with it. The problem is, because they first start fighting the rest of the team, and then Prozac comes in a bit later, they will already have used those cooldowns for other things, or they'll be paying attention to something else. So the other option, which that case could go for, is fight the rest of the team quicker, so Prozac doesn't have time to come in. And it's the same like argument that you always hear about against like Fire Mercies. Only in this case, you're talking about one hero instead of two, which is like you can either deal with the Fire Mercy or you can deal with the rest of the team. Now in practice, it's way easier said than done, but that is still what it kind of comes down to. Doesn't mean that Prozac is going to necessarily play the Doomfist here. We see him run out on a Hanzo, which is a very logical pick here, especially if you look like the rest of the map. There aren't that many places in which Doomfist doesn't just like, here I am from 5 miles away because of the sightlines.
Yeah,
but if there is an option that we may be seeing it later. I am happy to see the Symmetra right now on both sides. Whether they're going to use it optimally is always a question, but I still want to see the Symmetra Mace Strat. I still want to see it.
I don't know that we'll see it here, but I think the other interesting thing that we will see is the double off tank there. That Sigma Diva is very, very interesting from Huntington Esports. I look forward to seeing how that pans out versus the Rush comp.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to teleport over the arch, so they just don't have to worry about that. But they just get some storm arrows in the face. Do actually trade out a little bit. That's the Baptiste of X-Michael gone, but it's a lot more chaotic. It's already looking more successful than it was in the last map. Prozac does win that 1v1 against Jaeger, but this is not over just yet. And with the quicker respawns, they might be able to just attack faster if they use their time correctly in their space. Teleporter removed, obviously, for the quick respawns, but I think the defense is a teleporter too, so it might not matter in the end.
Yeah, to say those sim teleporters will be important here, but they're just going to full reset and just try to get this in for Midway. They want to try to get that tack a little different, and we'll try to clear some high ground. Tireman falls dangerously low and is getting that 2v1, and will need to get out. Will unfortunately get demeched, but they've gotten through, and now that the sim turrets are kind of buzzing away, the picks will start to fall for Huntington, and again, just that teleporter in just found out, and they kind of picked that plan. There will be some contests on the point, but it's just the lone heroes, it's just the lone Reaper trying to do what they can.
Yeah, it's the the kind of sloppiness of their entry. So a lot of the time when you see teams playing around the Reinhardt, what you want to do is you want to obviously like all rotate with the Reinhardt so you stay behind the shield. But because of the angle, the time, and the timing of the shields, you can just see that a few players are kind of lagging behind, and those gaps are being filled with a lot of damage on the other side. Mid games take a lot of damage there because of all the Symmetra turrets. Luckily, there won't be that many on the arch for that reason, but there is a self-destruct in the way.
And Dragons will catch Bappo out, but it will also force out that Immortality field, so the rest of it will come out. But again, Huntington Esports has their number. The change to bring in the Winston, that wasn't it. I mean, it was an effort was made, but that was not apparently the right number.
No, it was not. I mean, they did pull out a few ultimates, but there's still 4 alive. On the again, you're gonna have the Implication Matrix pretty soon. You're gonna have a Photon Barrier, Gravitic Flux, Nano Boost, like sustain plus defense plus offense. It's all coming out here. And Midway, I mean, they've got the Death Blossom and not much else beside that. Maybe the Amp Matrix, but it doesn't really help that much with their comp.
No, but they do now have speed on their side, so they're going to try to burst through a little bit faster. There is the Death Blossom. It comes up huge. Jaeger gets 2, and that is enough to crack this defense wide open as the rest is there. Midway Eagle will get that ultimate up, and they will commit that Amplification Matrix. The Dragons will come out, though, and will find some value in Myth games. The trade's still coming in back and forth, and it's not quite anyone's point yet. And Huntington Esports, once again, holds it and keeps this point alive in their favor. Just as I say that, though, Midway is still putting in some hassle. The Lucio is there, but will eventually fall to Huntington.
They got some percentage on the board. At least there's something to say for that. But even then, you know, only having to use 2 ultimates, still holding on to 3 there. Nano Amplification Matrix and that Gravitic Flux. Maybe such a hard press. Bappo better get that sound barrier online quick. That's not going to happen if instead of healing your tank, they're just going to die.
No, Tireman goes down so early, buying even more time off the clock. But that Amplification Matrix did go. I mean, they didn't really need it for much, I guess, right? Michael was just kind of a... they had it, and Michael didn't really need it for much.
They know
he's there. No, they know he's there. They're trying.
That's a display case in the ways, though. Displaying the Reaper's head very nicely, but not for killing, just for displaying.
Ginger will get that. Trash Boat coming in will take out that field and will clean up the Baptiste. And again, another fight falls. At least there is a tick on the point for Huntington Esports, though.
Yeah, 44.3%. I don't think they're going to have a lot of trouble with that. 12 seconds on the clock. See T-Brain already going forward. They just want their self-destruct to throw it into their spawn door at this stage. And they're going to get it, too. There it is. Straight in there. That Reaper's not going to make it out. Oh, got triggered by the Reinhardt shields.
Oh, but then speaking of that,
I mean, they won't make it to the points, but yeah, it was a fun play anyways. They tried with a Wrecking Ball, but Wrecking Ball can only do so much. In this case, so much was not a lot. Still the 1-0, and it's looking to be a quick 2-0 here for Huntington Esports, unless Midway puts up the defense of the century, which, I mean, we've just seen that it's possible, so never count it out. But I do think that Huntington is not going to have too much trouble here.
The 5-1, the 5-1 Huntington Esports have been doing well this season. Needless to say, that one, as we were kind of talking about this, the one only came from actually a forfeit. So, was it really a loss if they just couldn't play? Would they have won it? We will never really know. But again, Huntington Esports coming in towards the top of that, they are looking, they are looking just to clean this up and bring it up to 2-0.
Definitely 2-0 seems to be in the stars, in the cards, in the books already. They've penciled it in, but they can still have the eraser to get it away in case it's necessary. But I think it will be inked in pretty soon. Midway preparing for their defense with a double barrier Symmetra Reaper. I mean, double barrier will definitely help with getting shot by Hanzo arrows less. If there's no Hanzo coming out, I think they might go for it. I think they might go for the Mesa Symmetra thing over
this
might
over
actually,
they might actually be that.
Yeah. I really hope they do.
You're gonna get your wish class. I think this is.
I really hope they do, because I've only seen a couple times. The thing is, they don't have a Reinhardt that can immediately charge onto the point, so they have to be a little bit slower about it. I think it's happening. Our observers are wise to it. They're looking for it. Oh, no. They're not doing it. Oh, that's disappointing. They might still usually get over the archway, but at least they block off their rotation. Still a nice thing to do. We've seen this on Anubis a few times, so I do like the way that they still execute with it. I'm just disappointed.
They will take that high ground, though, and there will be the contest on there. Teleporter is the first thing to fall, but so is that Orisa. And again, the pieces from Midway University just falling, getting a little bit surrounded, and suddenly it's just as we were talking about how quickly we'd like to see it, it is over and done.
Done, dusted, over. Nothing to answer with from Midway, unfortunately for them. Huntington goes up 2-0, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is going to be a quick 3-0. I mean, we said it before the series started. It wasn't looking great in terms of prospects, but Midway definitely not able to bring in any answer so far.
No, the consolation prize, I guess, is this nice Reaper play. But again, it's still tough, because if they, they kind of need to come out with something here as they're falling a little bit further down in the ranks. And we were talking about how important this is to keep themselves towards the middle of the pack. And going 3-0 is not going to get you a little bit further up the pack. It's only going to push you further down.
Yeah, for sure it is. But we're going to give Midway the benefit of the doubt. Going to give them a little bit of chance to potentially be able to bring this back. We're going to give them a few minutes for that. So we're going to throw it to a quick break, and when we're back, we're going to go into Map 3 Rialto coming up to see whether or not these teams can show us some more Overwatch that is not a complete one-sided match.
Welcome back, everybody. We are here. It's NECC Overwatch Week 7. We've got Midway University down 0-2 versus Huntington Esports, putting on a great show. And it is match point man of class. We are going to Rialto, and we got a game here. We sure have a game of Overwatch right here.
Yeah, Overwatch is being played. But you know what? When you're in these moments, when a series like this hits your desk, when you're in a series like this as a team and you're on the losing side, there's only one answer that I would go with in my mind. And Rialto's a perfect map for it, which is play Bastion.
Yeah.
Especially, well, I mean, and it's not just play Bastion, but it's like play stuff that isn't necessarily considered to be super meta. Like play what you're comfortable on, play what, like in terms of heroes, play what you like what kind of want to play, and like try and throw them off balance, because default is not working at the moment.
Yeah.
Like you gotta think outside the box. You gotta go with something wacky if you want to win. The other option is, of course, which is what they're likely going to go with, is we're going to play exactly what we want to play in terms of like meta and strategy and like practice, because it is better practice that way. Like you'll actually learn how to play those comps better if you play against a team that really, you know, is this good versus US Huntington is. So both options I'd be happy with for them. But of course, you know, if we talk about the entertainment factor, Sebastian would not be out of play.
I mean, look, we are in Navigator's yellow. If you are just checking into this division, this is lower. This is like Reed Gold tier of players. So a Bastion is like a good fit, and a lot of teams, even in a competitive environment, would struggle.
Do not know. They don't know how to deal. Yeah, it's for sure situation. The only worry I have is that they also usually have a problem dealing with Pharah. And Ginger knows that. Toxic knows that. So they're just going to go in with the Pharah and the Mercy on the defense, which is also coincidentally pretty good on Rialto defense.
Yeah.
And I worry about Midway here. They don't really have a long range hits kind of deal with it at the moment. They might swap onto one as a response.
Yeah.
But they're gonna go try and Reaper, Tracer, dive, and it's gonna kind of be a full dive here.
Yeah.
No one really that is static and has to like stay on cart. So it could also just completely omit the Pharah.
Yeah, they could just play into that Sigma and try to force out some of that. It's tough to dive those targets, but speaking of diving those targets, it's already counter-dived on from Huntington Esports, and they will get what they need to. The last of these shots will just clean up, and the tank line from Midway University will have to try it. But the double boot from Ginger, just the
That's
flex
play the
there.
game.
That's play already.
Yeah.
We've seen it, but yeah. Ginger coming to life absolutely has been good. Prozac has had their moment, so I guess it's Ginger's time to shine.
See, you call it a counter dive. I think it's more of a counter dive bomb with the Pharah just like dunking on them at this stage. We really counter dunk. It's really hard. You do immediately see D-Nazi switch over to the soldier. Tire Man already losing the mech, but at least put some pressure on this high ground. Not enough though. Will lose their mech and their life. So does mid games, and high ground is just so much under control here.
No, they've got it. The cart did move a little bit underneath, but the rest of this cleanup will fall. And we, you know, for as much as we're talking about the DPS line here, Huntington Esports, we got to give it also to Trashboat, who has looked phenomenal across several heroes. Between the Reinhardt, between the Zarya, between the Sigma here. Huntington Esports as a team has looked very good.
Yeah, they all know what to do in their roles. The Immortality Fields from X-Michael have been good. Doxic has been very adequate. Well, not adequate, very good on the Mercy. Right target selection in terms of the heal at what time. They haven't really had to res a lot of people, so I can't really comment on that. But their Valkyries have been good in terms of like when they activate them, when they use them. And in general, as a team, they've also been ult cycling really well. Like, they've got ultimates up, but they just have the discipline to hold on to them in case it gets hairy.
They will, and speaking of hairy, there's a hairy situation. Ginger will fall. Probably going to get res back up, and Prozac will trade that right back there as that res incoming, but the pressure is on, and the rush comp has made its way up there. So, again, this aggressive push really didn't make it, but the cart did move. They are getting some progress here, so now they have to address this elephant moving through. There is the barrage, though, that will address that, will eventually trade out, and the cart now finally getting some contest there. So, you know, it's slowly coming together here, and Midway is making some progress. They're getting it. That Diva self-destruct will come out, not find anybody. If they can punish it enough, there it is. T-Brain will fall too, and they may continue to make it through point A.
Retirement out of mech currently, which means that this stack visor could get a lot of value, but now there's a Death Blossom in the way. By defending so heavily on the high ground, they just gave up too much space, and it's, well, coming home to roost at the moment. This proverbial chicken, that's the first checkpoint gone, and Rialto turning out in a very nice way here for Midway so far. Yeah, Midway not down and out just yet, and they get their first point on the board of the entire match. Couldn't do it on Eichenwald, but Rialto is a different story. Now they can start building up some momentum because their ults are definitely in favor here.
They definitely are, and meanwhile, Huntington Esports only that one on the board. That flux going to have to be big if they want to put a stop to this. But yeah, now with the control of this high ground, they are going to try and push back, and that will be a teleport a long way around. Might have been a little bit of a miss there, maybe just trying to get some picks, but they will continue to use that. And let's see what Midway University is going to throw at this. The Diva will fall sooner from Tire Man and will continue to get traded out. Huntington Esports getting grip on the control again, even though the card is continuing to move through this choke. The Reinhardt isolated and alone there, not really able to, with much help, and that will be Myth Games falling there. Finally putting their foot down. You know, they gave them the first point, wanted to make it a game maybe, but Huntington Esports bringing it back.
Huntington Esports eventually starting to hold again on their defense. Now they can start setting up in this high ground again. Problem last time they set on high ground is that they didn't really consider contesting the card to be all that important, or at least didn't do it enough. So if they make that mistake again here, this card could once again start rolling towards the checkpoint, and they could kind of sneak it in again or put them in an awkward position. The road to the point is a bit more direct, though, in this situation, so I don't expect it to happen as much.
No, but there's a couple high grounds to contest. There's a high ground and a low ground to test, and Huntington Esports, with all of those tools there, will go. Midway Eagle going to commit that Coalescence to try and get some pressure out there, and they will force them off that high ground there suddenly. Self-destruct will go in. Look both ways before you cross the street, and there's both of those coming up huge, and Huntington Esports, again, putting the stop on the push.
With all the mobility, and even the Reinhardt couldn't even hide from that self-destruct. That is potentially problematic, but, you know, they still have 2 minutes. They're okay. They have a bunch of ultimates in the bank as well that they didn't expend there. Good use of the Coalescence to actually clear out that high ground. They were in a great position, but then the rest of the team didn't really follow up to go that far forward. The self-destruct was kind of in a perfect position because everyone was still back there. And I'm looking forward to seeing if they're potentially going to change that pacing and get everyone further forward now.
Oh, the pin to take out the ulting soldier is unfortunate, but the shatter continues. It comes up huge, followed by the Death Blossom to bring it home. Those ultimates from Midway University coming up huge. They are not down and out for certain.
And that's good thinking from them as well, because you know what your ultimate situation is your own. You know how much they've used and how much they probably have. They've been ult tracking, so you know they potentially have 1, maybe 2 ultimates on. So you can use 4 or 5 to just even the playing field again. Now they've both got 1.
They do have 1, and Ginger will take 1 on the way out there, but the picks continue to fall for Midway. Again, just taking this aggressive stance, and D Nausea, speaking of aggressive coming in, just as that rolls over the line, we'll find 2 with that tactical visor. Going to try to look for a few more, but they're just continuing to keep this card rolling. Again, there's the 3rd for D Nausea, and Prozac trying to counter back with their own, but we'll have to get out of dodge for now.
I'm going to try and get one of these players, whether it's the Soldier or the Baptiste, doing a lot of damage to both of them. And that's the Reinhardt with him as well for some protection. So that's great, great start. The payload start rolling. 2 minutes on the clock. They are dwindling in time a little bit. They did get stopped on B for a while. But it's still making pace, still making time.
Ooh, manages to get out there. Yeager does manage to get there. Flux goes out, catches several. Can that follow up for anything big? No one comes out. The Reinhardt will start to fall, and Huntington Esports again in the 11th hour will finally look to settle and reset the clock here. Ginger still holding onto that Deadeye. May not need it now, but will definitely be impactful, along with the other 4 ultimates for Huntington Esports next fight.
And just 2 fights after we talked about that ultimate situation, it's sort of completely flipped. Huntington has got almost all of them ready. Do lose Prozac here, but Yeager gets traded. No risk coming in, though. That's a numbers advantage here for Midway. Midway can start rolling again. Missing a support and a DPS is not good for the defense, but there's a lot of
behind,
though.
Ginger comes in for 2. Comes in for 2. Will immediately get traded out, though, and they still want to push. Midway still thinks they've got something. Self-destruct comes out. Can they avoid it? Yeah, they do for now. But it's a little too late. Less than a minute on the clock, and there's time for 1 more fight.
Time for 1 more as Midway prepares to attack this. And now they're actually coming up to, again, 4 ultimates. It's Yeager, it's D Nausea, and both tanks, Entire Man and Myth Games, are going to have it ready. 1 good fight, maybe a contest if it's quick. But they're going to have to go into both support ultimates, Tech Visor, and most likely a Gravitic Flux to finish this one off.
Oh, Yeager goes down early, though, and that's a flanking visor coming out. Can they put the pressure on? D Nausea will find some value, though, before finally getting silenced there. The rest of that is looking, though. Michael is going to keep those bullets firing. No healing required here. Cart is still kind of contested, though. Not really there. 15 seconds left. Still just pushing on. Prozac coming to life here, though. We'll find two. No visor needed. And they're just going to look to clean this up. There is going to be time just to get a touch in. The contest will carry over. And Bappo is going to try and make it just to keep this alive. We'll get there just as overtime rolls in, and the picks continue to fall for Huntington Esports. No one on Cart. Can anybody make it in time? Looks like no.
And that's the small eager things, right? Like they tried to rush in as like a rush comp team, but the shield dropped just too early, or the Reaper went in like just too far in front, so Yeager got taken out. And if you missed that Death Blossom, it felt like that was something they wanted to play around, because the Death Blossom has always found a lot of value with the Shatter or just individually, and they just couldn't get that off. Like that particular player, that hero, that ultimate was missing from that fight, and that apparently threw too much of a wrench in their plans. And Midway, even though they can be a little bit flexible, it does seem like they really like to stick to those plans that they make. So unfortunately, they couldn't really get away with it this time around. But still, we've seen them do a lot better than we've seen on previous maps. Two points, 66.89 meters. It's not quite close to the last objective, but you know, it's a way there. So all they really have to do is kind of stop this Huntington Esports team before they get to B. And I think they'll be in a... Well, then they'll win, obviously. But that seems like a possible effort now all of a sudden.
Huntington Esports looks confident with this. And again, they're going to roll out with this Pharah, who got a lot of value initially. And now we're seeing some different things here. Yeager over to the Junkrat now. Looks like they're just going to try and pressure down that front line a little bit more. I think this is an interesting pick that they might swap off of once they see the Pharah, though.
It's very possible that they will, but... you know, the Junkrat versus the Pharah, they can kind of get the same sort of value, while D-Nazi actually deals with the Pharah and Jaeger, you know, Prozac tries to deal with the Junkrat. Like, they're kind of like counterparts in that situation. And because the Mercy is constantly with that Pharah, they do have that support advantage in terms of Bappo and Midway, and they have more mobility too. D-Nazi doesn't win the battle against Prozac, though. Will get taken out by the D.Va, so there is a bit of an equal trade in hit scan. That means that both Junkrat and Pharah are going to have way more fun together now.
Oh, there will be, but Doxic is going to go ahead and res that back up. You know, no problems there. And the tank line from Midway suddenly struggling will finally fall, and the cart will begin to roll for Esports, working their way halfway through a lot of ultimates, and they're just finding the value. Again, Ginger comes up for 2 and just continues to find so much value on this Pharah.
Oh, sun in the eyes. Couldn't quite hit all the shots that they needed on the Ginger. Didn't even have the Mercy with them just yet. They came in a bit late, did Doxic. It could have potentially been a kill, but that was actually Prozac helping out the Pharah. Was looking good, actually. Like, D-Nazi actually does have a good handle on trying to deal with this Pharah. And it is working out most of the time. It's just the help that Prozac is providing is too much for both of the DPS. It's not even Ginger, it's Prozac.
Yep. Speaking of Ginger, though, there is that, and that will be several picks coming in. Everything must go. Ginger coming up huge, and Prozac just going to go ahead and make a nice clean headshot to close it out on point A. And I mean, they committed a lot into getting the rest of that weight, but they look like they're just ready to keep this rolling for Huntington Esports.
Yeah, and they're still cycling through ultimates in a fairly economical way, so they're okay in that sense. They know nothing's online yet for Midway because they haven't been able to do any damage whatsoever. So Tireman... The only reason why Tireman actually has their ultimate online is because they've kind of been, I wouldn't say suicidal, but they've been going fairly aggressive into the enemy tank line, and then you just get a lot of damage off as D.Va. But they need to do a little bit more if they actually want to find some value here.
Speaking of that value, though, Tireman is going in and will try to find some value. But Myth falls. That's one half of the tank line down. We'll get 2, though, with that self-destruct. And suddenly, it's anybody's fight here. Still looking for more. And the Battle of the D.Va is going out. They're just going to get out. Huntington Esports is going to try and just back up, give this up, and reset for more. They didn't spend anything, though, so they're happy with it. But never mind. As I say that, Ginger hits a big, big play. And suddenly, well, we threw in the visor anyways. Everything must go. But, you know, the fight stalled for now.
Yeah, and because the res isn't online, that visor is like a happy investment just to get rid of the fire for a little bit. Because now, you know, Ginger won't be there for a while. Gotta be ready with that sound barrier. It's gonna have to come in big, but they use it aggressively, not to counter any ultimates. They just go in with it.
No, and the D.Va again goes in deep. But T-Brain on the other side will find a couple, and Ginger follows it up with one of their own. And the picks falling for Huntington Esports after this very extended team fight. It never really stopped, but they will continue to clean up the rest of this and get the cart rolling eventually.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest, I love an aggressive sound barrier. Like, it can work really well. Only this situation didn't feel like it was necessary yet. And there were so many ultimates online on the other side. You kind of want to save it to at least block one of them, especially that gravitic flux can be huge to stop with a sound barrier.
It sure could have been, but we'll never see that. And that's the only sound barrier we are seeing from either side. So Ginger looking in, the pin coming out huge, but there is the counter plays, will get picked eventually, no value found, and Yeager finally coming up huge on that Reaper. They will put their foot down here just before B.
Now, the Reinhardt is always going to find this value. There's nothing really to block that Shatter on the other side. It's either you dodge it or you happen to have like a very lucky Sigma shield just in time. And that's really easy to play around this myth games. Like, the shield's easy to destroy. It's easy to predict where it's going to be. Like, as soon as it's somewhere, you know that they can't move it for like another second and a half. So you'll be fine. So at least they're going to always find value there. It's just a shame that they have to also use the Death Blossom with it always to kind of find that value.
Yeah, the ultimate pairings is a good idea, but, you know, if you can't pair it to anything else, that's that. But speaking of pairing, that will be some pairings from that. Prozac will find two from that. That big Sky Noon comes up huge, and the cart will continue to roll for Huntington.
Got him. Sky Noon, one of the classic combos eventually. I mean, it's not as classic as Graph Dragon, but it's pretty close. Just because Sigma came out later.
It's a new age classic.
It's just because Sigma came out later. I don't think that's fair, but yeah, no, obviously it's how it works, you know? Yeah. Newer hero, newer pairing. It's what we do.
You can be classic without being old.
You can.
You know?
We call it a new classic, right?
Yeah,
but exactly. We'll see what Midway can put up for this last point of defense. Scart still has a little bit of a ways to go, but if you lose Tireman that early, gonna miss a big part of your defense. No self-destruct especially, but they still have that sound barrier from Bappo. Let's see if they're gonna use it aggressively again. I don't think they will, because they shouldn't really fight right now. They should just try and, you know, poke, wait it out.
No, they need to poke that. They will poke that visor in there, though, and the value will try to get wrought. Just run past the shield and unfortunately punish right away. The self-destruct will go in to try to find some more value, and the ultimates are coming out for Midway. They know this is their moment. They need to stop this here. But the ultimates for the side of Huntington are Goss, and that will be Michael falling with one in hand. Continuing to trade those ultimates is just something that needs to go. There is the resurrection, and there is an amplification magic from one side. Do they respond in kind from Michael? Nothing there, but 5 ultimates for Huntington. Something's going to come out soon to keep this push alive. And Ginger, again, trying to buy for space and get some pressure down. Can't really get in for that barrage. But again, they're also just not getting any space, and Midway is holding this choke point.
If you thought that Ginger was going to stop here, you thought wrong. They had the barrage ready. They want to probably concussion mine in and then go for it. That's what they do. It's a predictable play, but it doesn't mean you can stop it on the other side. Don't get everyone, though. It's only 2 players, and the D.Va does get traded, but Ginger doesn't want to stop. They want to keep on going. They want to close this out. 2 minutes on the clock, but they don't want to wait that long.
No, just the tank line from Midway and 1 remaining. That'll be the High Noon out. No shield in sight, and just the lone D.Va pilot trying to hide from that shot. But Ginger's just going to steal the spotlight one last moment, and there is going to be a last-second contest, but I don't think there will be too much left here for the side of Midway. And I think that's going to be all she wrote, man of class. Huntington
Good shatter.
Esports. Big shatter. No, the amplification is good, though. Comes out, and Prozac and Michael will come up, and that is all she wrote. Huntington Esports closes out Rialto and keeps it 3-0.
Yeah, that almost turned into something good. Unfortunately, they kept losing either Yeager or their Reinhardt too early, and that shatter was... I mean, it's been such a good play for them, especially because there's no really like a block on the other side for it. And it almost saved them again. That shatter came in there. It almost stopped them. The self-destruct was even blocked by the shield, but they just couldn't get close to the card in time because of the Cassidy flashbang. Yeah. Unfortunate for Midway, but a much better showing on that third map. Very happy that they were able to put that up to at least make it a little bit closer, because those first 2 maps were unfortunately not as close. But Midway, you know, I think they can get a lot out of the VOD review for this, and that's a good thing for them. They can show up a lot better in the coming weeks, and potentially even in playoffs as well. Huntington continuing their dominance, now in a 7-0 record. I think they might actually be the team that so far has done the best out of all conferences and divisions. I think they are. That's so, yeah, I mean, obviously, it's also because some of them haven't played all their matches yet, games, but... Yeah. They are undefeated on 7-0 now, and no one else has managed that yet. So currently most successful team in all of NECC. I think that's a badge you can currently at least hold on your breast. You know, just put it up there on your Overwatch shirt that you're undoubtedly wearing when you're playing players of Huntington. Because for now, You definitely earned that badge.
They definitely did. It'll look good on their esports uniform, as it were. But
Yeah.
equally as good, we're going to take a quick break before we get to the next game. So hang tight. Stay here if you want. You can check in on the B scene or head over there yourself. But we'll be back for the next game in a little bit.
Yeah, and that will be Howard CC Dragons from Howard Community College versus the SUNY or Sunny Oneonta team from the State University of New York at Oneonta. So that's Immersion Jello. We'll see you right here after the break.